Habari zenyu. Let's just be real for a moment. Good to have you this morning.
Okay.
And of course, yes. We have, that is Caleb Hamisi, who's a member of parliament, who will be joining us also via Skype. And yes, Alex Mwathi is an engineer and equally a political analyst, and Anthony Konya, who's an MCA of course, Kiambu County. Thank you so much for your time. And we also have Philip Mwangali once again, who's a legal expert and also a political analyst this morning. Good to have you. As we ponder some more on that, Mheshimiwa is on standby already on Skype also. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning, how are you?
I'm good. Good to have you after a long while.
Thank you very much.
And I think it's only fair that we start with you, so at least you don't feel left out now that you're the one who's away from us. And yes, we are talking matters BBI, the likelihoods of us getting the signatures being collected with so much confidence coming from the proponents. They say, they will not only collect 1 million, but 4 million signatures. This also with some few of amendments or changes that have been put into the document. What are your expectations for the day?
Yeah, we expect as much as we've always wished. Remember, 1 million signature is the required number of signature by law for any process that has been started by popular initiative, and that is normally the first process towards a referendum. Mm-hmm. So the 4 million signature maybe is just an extra to weigh the popularity of the initiative. But I think what the law requires is just 1 million signatures. So we expect, of course, that one can be achieved within even a day. And then we move on to the next step. Mm-hmm. I think we need to also relieve the country out of this burden of politics around BBI so that the country can move on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I relieve it going to be?
Well, if I may just use Caleb's words. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says that the 4 million will be so that they can weigh the popularity of the initiative. Yeah. And I think that points to what this is all about. And the fact that they're also saying that, they want to relieve the country of the burden, the political burden that has surrounded BBI. Yeah. I have been consistent from the onset that this has been a political affair rather than a constitutional making enterprise, as it should be. Mm-hmm. Because if you have politicians driving the process, and there is no problem with people who are elected into office driving, such a process. Yeah. But once it is marred by political interest, and for our case, these are selfish political interests. Mm-hmm. It's just basically it. If once it is marred by those interests, then you lose the hallmark of constitutional making. Yeah. So I have no doubt that they will come up with these signatures, whether there will be bought or whether people will just be told to sign up. Mm-hmm. Because I think we understand the nature of Kenyans when it comes to such political engagements. And when Honorable Hamisi is saying that they can even collect the signatures in one day, if you compare that with what the experts on those sides, on the side of the BBI are saying, mm-hmm. they are saying that they need first to sensitize the public, what they are calling civic education, which in my view is not. Mm-hmm. But the real players know that they can even take one day. So people will be signing a document they have no idea about. And I think over the last few days we have learned that amendments have been made to the report that was published,
originally published
and brought to us at Bomas of Kenya.
Right.
So this has turned out to be a personalized engagement over a document that is national, over a document that gives the Kenyan heritage and gives us direction. So once we personalize such an engagement, we are not talking about constitutional making. We are talking about a popularity contest, which this is. And Honorable Hamisi has mentioned that they will be weighing the popularity of this initiative. Right. They will be flexing their muscles over this BBI signature thing.
Well, one said yesterday that it's actually flexing your muscles towards 2022, just to get to know who will have more stamina come 2022. And like Philip says, there have been some adjustments that have been incorporated that are evidently here that we get to learn out today. And equally, the process of signing or the collecting signatures starts almost immediately. And we're talking about reading the document, I mean, just how important and crucial is the process of, having signatures being collected? Is it because, I mean, people would be having confidence about this, or is just a trigger to the next move on, a constitutional move that actually the report is going to take?
Thank you. Once again, thanks for having me in Basti. It's a big day for me. It's my birthday. So.
Oh, happy birthday. You should have told us to come with a cake. Happy birthday to you. Magdalene, please fix a cake. Yeah.
That aside, I must say that I've said in this show once and again that one of the things that BBI was supposed to do certain people is to revamp them in politics.
Yeah.
Back in politics, they've been away from politics for some time and they really don't know where they are in as far as 2022 is concerned.
Yeah.
So basically they want to use BBI to revamp them back into politics. I want to allude to what my brother here said, that it is really unfortunate that we beginning a signing exercise of what people don't know what they're signing for.
Yeah.
Because we have a different set of documents. We've now been told that this is the fourth probably version of the BBI, and we're not telling people to sign. And I heard them as well say that probably in a week's time they'll have done 4 million signatures. My question is, within that 1 week time, will you have gone to the people and told them, this is the final draft, this is what we have, take them through and show them the changes that we already have a conversation around it, and then allow people to sign? But what are we simply doing? We're simply saying that in a couple of days, some people sat in some dark room, made the whatever changes they wanted to change. They'll be bringing them today, and they're saying as early as today they'll start collecting signatures. I think we've started it all wrong. And it has become a personal thing, so to say, just like the brother here is saying.
Yeah.
So I think we need to let it be a people's process as opposed to what is happening now. So I'm really disturbed that we're taking this document to the people and collecting signatures to a document that nobody knows what really has been added, what has been removed. And we need to get time, and see what have we added. I've seen one of the daily says that the proposal of the 70 MPs that were added has now been removed. They have now proposed that we do a boundary review. So all those changes, when you do those changes overnight, I mean, and then nobody knows who proposed and what. Again, Linda, what happens to, like we saw the nomadic community go to Capitol Hill, present their we have seen sets of people who've come again.
The pastoralist interests have also been incorporated on the current one.
Yes, we do not know whether that is true or not. So basically we need time to look at it before we even append signatures on anything. That
begs the question as to just what is the significance of collection of signatures? Is it just because it's a constitutional process? And the crafters of the Constitution, what did they envision when they set up these clauses, speaks of, the need of collection of signatures? Is it about the fact that, it is going to give a nod that this has been accepted by the people? Or what exactly is it about? I remember that, during the Punguza Mizigo talk that we were having first, it was a surprise that they were able to garner the 1 million signatures, that they moved around the country for months and months trying to collect the signatures. Here we are talking about the same process that is likely to take only 1 day.
The significance of that is that the lawyer in the House alluded to that is a constitutional requirement. And the purpose of that was to show that that it's a people's initiative.
Okay.
It's something that is initiated by the people, that these 1 million of us have said yes to it.
So can we say yes to a document? Allow me to ask this. Can we say that this is a document that has been brought to us, 1, 2, 3, 4 of us? We probably have so much confidence in the person who's presented the document to us, and we feel like, after all, we're going to have a conversation revolving around this document. So even before we read it, we can just say, let's give it the signature and then start the process later.
That, Linda, is assuming that Kenyans are goats.
Because I really,
yes. I don't know how many of you have been able to herd goats, because I did that when I was young.
Yes.
In the plains of Loitokitok. And goats go where you want them to go.
Okay.
You use a stick, and you don't have to hit them. They know that the pain of that stick makes them move where you want them to go.
Yeah.
So the politicians in this country are assuming that Kenyans are goats. And because in the past we presented ourselves as goats to them, we've given our souls, we've given our allegiance. To an extent, we no longer think, they think on our behalf.
Yeah.
I've told you, Linda, many times, the BBI is a love letter between two friends.
Right.
It's a love letter that was prepared for Muigai Kenyatta, the president, and Raila Amolo Odinga, the so-called former prime minister. I do not know why we struggle with this former thing.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a love letter.
Yes.
So hence, any changes that is done to that love letter is done between the two of them. And to an extent that because we have sold our souls and our allegiance to them, we do not have any more brains to think about those documents.
Yeah.
And that's why they have the confidence of launching the revised document today, or whatever they are calling it, unveiling it, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, expect 1 million Kenyans to have read it and to make judgment that now this document is okay. It means that they don't expect you to think about it.
Right.
But for me, other than the fact that we've given our souls, our allegiance, our thinking, our brains to them, for them to think on our behalf, the bigger issue is they should be bigger than that.
Yeah.
And realize that this country is in the midst of a pandemic. Every single hospital is full of people. Doctors have said that. Last week, we had a report of almost 10 doctors dying of COVID. Can't we use our sensibilities and stop this nonsense and sort out the pandemic that we have?
Yeah.
Have we become so satanic that we don't think about our people? The Spanish flu of 1918 and 1919 killed 50 million 50 million people in the world.
Yeah.
This thing will be thus for the next 2-3 years. How many people are going to die if we continue having these kind of shenanigans?
Hold it right there. Hold it right there.
You are preparing 14 billion shillings, and I tell you my pain today, Linda. And I want this to go straight away to the president and the so-called former prime minister, that they must stop and think about Kenyans. We've given our souls, our allegiance, everything to them. They must think about us. Look, I have a friend who was admitted in hospital last week, on Thursday. He's been on oxygen for the last 5 days. Do you know how much it costs to get oxygen on a daily basis? Yeah. Fortunately, he has an international, insurance that is paying for it. How many Kenyans can afford 3 days of oxygen in hospital? I can tell you here plainly, 90% of Kenyans can't afford.
95%.
Well, let's not blindly approach this. Let's not approach this with emotions for a second.
You
can't avoid it.
I know we saw that.
Yes, look at today's day, for example. I will add to what Modi is saying. We're plunging deeper into debt.
Yes.
What you're being told today is that we now want to borrow money from IMF and World Bank to come and pay some other loans. And this is a country that is ready to spend about 14 billion to do a referendum. Yeah. Of some sort of constitutional changes that people don't understand. So I think we need to get our priorities right, as Modi is saying.
Philip, and I'm not trying to play the devil's advocate in any way, but we've had this conversation and the argument has been that life has to move on. That really we cannot halt every other activity just because of this one, in as much as we acknowledge that indeed it's hit us hard. Are we trying to be a little bit hypocritical when we're telling the government, overlook every other thing, stop all these political activities? I mean, the BBI, as they would say, in as much as it's a political activity, is something that would bring us good or, would change the direction that we're taking as a country, well, for the better. Or, if we are to go by their words. Is it hypocritical to even say that we can overlook all that and say, let's now focus everything on COVID?
It is true that life has to move on. But that statement cannot be said when you have, your molester stepping on top of your neck. Yeah. That cannot happen. And I've had politicians equate the United States elections and elections that have been going on around the world to our kind of process. Now, the danger with that is that you forget your current realities. And our current reality is that COVID has gone ahead of us. We are struggling to catch up. Yeah. Our healthcare system is struggling to catch up. So in those circumstances, you cannot tell the people that life has to move on. Life is not moving on because people are dying. That is the reality on the ground. So in as much as we need to move forward, we need to adjust ourselves to this pandemic, we are not doing it in the right way. And we're talking about 14 billion shillings around the referendum. For me, I am looking at the amounts that have been spent right from the time of the handshake. Yes. I think we are now, shuttling towards the 100 billion mark. Spending that amount of money on an engagement that we needed not to have had. Okay. That is my point. Two, We have had a case of classical misprioritization.
Okay.
You have a government that is tasked with resources, and they are tasked with allocating these resources prudently. But then here we are allocating those resources to a channel that will not serve us any good in this short term.
Okay.
I think for us, if you have a choice between safeguarding lives and going through a process that would benefit a certain category of Kenyans and not all Kenyans, then you'll go for the choice of saving lives.
Yeah.
And the government is telling us they will choose not to save lives. They are going to choose to amend the constitution. It is just classically that. I mean, we have to put it as straight as it is.
Yeah.
Government is choosing not to save lives. If right now doctors are threatening to strike, and they have been threatening to strike for a very long time, it's not just this year, it's not just during the pandemic,
right?
And government is not listening. You see the Ministry of Health coming out and saying we are okay, everything is under control, our healthcare system is fit. Yet the people who are running the healthcare system are telling us that things are bad. What kind of government does this to its people? What kind of leaders can do this to its people? And I will dare answer myself and say only Kenyan leaders can do this.
Honorable Caleb Amisi is there? Not yet? All right, we're trying to fix his connection, and then we'll come back to him. Because, I mean, and I want to ask you this. Now you'll take that blame, and we'll ask you as leaders, because we have elected you to represent us. I would want to say the dissenting voices. Is it that you're not speaking enough for the grievances of the Kenyans to be addressed? I mean, if you listen to leaders speak with confidence and bravado and saying that this has to sail through, we're going to get this after all, whether the document has been read or not. When we listen to leaders cry foul, when we see our leaders cry in parliament, I mean, as proceedings continue, on how terrible the health sector is, the very same leaders that we've elected to represent us, what do you expect us, expect of us as Kenyans?
You know, it begins from the top. I'm given an opportunity to advise the president today. I'll tell him this. I'll tell him, Mr. President, let me tell you something. Time is way spent. You cannot actualize your big four agenda. That one is already done. It's spent. You can't, that one you can't. This BBI thing is going to mess you further. This handshake thing is not going to take you anywhere. I'll tell the president, look at what we have here. We're facing a pandemic. And what I would advise you to do is let this one help you revolutionize the entire health sector.
Okay.
I'll tell the president, go home with only one legacy. Let Kenyans remember you, that during your time and during COVID, you went around this country and made sure that there was oxygen in every hospital in this country. Let Kenyans remember that when you were the president and COVID ran to us, you revolutionized the whole, health sector, and you brought in changes that will forever. And this is the only thing and time and opportunity that he has to do that. Only one that one thing. Otherwise, the whole of this handshake thing, this BBI thing, the whole of the Big Four agenda, that is now lost.
Okay.
Because I can tell you, BBI is not going to anywhere if you ask me. But we have an opportunity as a country, as leadership, and it begins from up there.
Yeah.
Because when health is a devolved function, I agree. So we have quite a lot to do as a country, for example. But you see, we are grappling with the problem of getting money from the national government. That is why it beats logic when you tell me you're going to give us 35%, while we cannot even absorb the 15% that you already give us. We can't, at the end of the year, we don't absorb the 15%. And you're telling us you're giving us 35%. So what you're simply saying is, in as much as you've heard my friend here, the Wakili here said, the doctors will be on strike probably in a week or two. Yeah. And they'll make good there, right? Because they can't keep losing their lives every day and still keep quiet. Yeah. We saw Kenyans now dying in matatus, helplessly. There is nothing much they can do. Yeah. You walk into any hospital, you don't get oxygen. Beds are spread out. Come to Kiambu. All beds are now, you can't get a bed in Kiambu right now.
Right.
So what are we going to do? This is where we need to bring all our efforts and money and everything, just like any other country is doing.
All right, and that brings me to that point where I'll say, let's drop the BBI conversation and we wait to see what will happen today and come to this aspect of health. And we have seen irreducible minimums being given to the government by the health fraternity. Those are the medics. We've also seen the teachers presenting theirs, and we are evidently talking about a point where we are staring at a crisis. What can we do to evade this, or what can we do to ensure that the government runs away from this? Because reality is that we'll come to January, students are supposed to go back to school, and then the teachers strike on that very day. The medics are on strike as it stands today. Their situation is dire. Then that means the situation of Kenyans is equally dire.
The question you're asking, what they should do, is a very simple thing. Okay. They've got to get from the pedestal they are seated and stop pretending that they live in mass and calm down. Come down to us Kenyans and see the situation from where we are.
Yeah.
If you have an insurance cover of 10 million shillings that is paid by me,
right, you
got to come back to ensure that I'm safe enough to be able to pay the taxes that pays the premium for your insurance.
Okay.
Stupidity is when you sit there and assume it is just going to happen. Linda, life must go on. Life must go on. You tell me that life must go on when I was in hospital for 21 days because of an operation because of cancer. You tell me. I will not listen to you because I'm facing life and death.
Yeah.
So my life must go on now is actually facing this situation from moving from where I am in Aga Khan Hospital with pain that's excruciating and getting out.
Okay.
Life must go on is to ensure that Honorable Konya have just said that Kiambu Hospital is full and every hospital is full in this country. People are looking for beds when they have a situation. Life must go on to ensure that there is an extra bed. No shenanigans that causes other people to live better than the rest. Life must go on by cutting down the government expenditures to a level that is able to afford the rest to keep this country going. We are not being faced by a simple issue. We are being faced by a pandemic. And I've sat here and I say life must go on, if you remember.
Yes.
But I've always said life must go on because we must open schools, we must go to, but with the necessary protocols. It's not ignoring the fact that that situation is there. So what needs to be done is people to be sensible and come down from the pedestal they are seated on to come and talk to us and understand our situation and help us be able to get over this.
All right.
It's a real issue. Is a big problem for this country, not only this country, the rest of the world. We are going to be with it. You notice all the other countries now are struggling to ensure that there is a vaccine by next year.
Yeah.
I saw one announcing that they will be able to do what you call, they're having 70% success rate and all that, which is good.
Yeah.
Now, leaving that, the doctors have given us notice to strike. What is overriding thing that is causing them to go on strike? Do you know what it is? They are telling the government, provide PPEs.
It's crazy.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about? 15 of our colleagues are dead.
Yeah.
And I want the guys who are pretending to be running this kind of Mutahi Kagwe as a minister for health, the president and his friend, Odinga, to start thinking, basically, if you lose 15,
if you lose more,
if you lose 15 specialists, doctors, how much money would you require to train to replace the 15?
Coming to you,
it's so
Philip.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Please give them masks. Give them PPEs.
But why is this not happening, Philip? Just why is this not happening? Right from that very first time we talked about the first case in the country, the complaints have been the same, they've been perennial, and this is not happening. Is it just hard for the government to be able to do this?
I think most of the time when you talk about government, we lose the specificity of individuals who are occupying certain positions.
Yep.
And I think right now we need to start calling out these individuals. And for the Ministry of Health, we must start with the person who is leading that ministry. And I have opined in the past that that was an accident for the Ministry of Education to be led by Mutahi Kagwe. I am yet to find the wisdom or perhaps lack of it in the president's choice for that kind of profile leading the Ministry of Education. I think right now, Ministry of Health, sorry, okay. Ministry of Health. Right now, I am tired of speaking to government, yes, because they have proved to us that they have no conscience.
Right.
Because these are clear-cut issues. I mean, if your doctors are coming to you telling you this is what is happening, you cannot come to us, crying from the rooftops on how you're listening to the experts. Yet the experts themselves are telling you there is a problem. So these are leaders who do not have consciences. And I would go as far as saying it's like their conscience is seared with hot iron. They cannot think beyond what benefits their stomachs.
Right.
That is one. Two, I think when you talk about the healthcare system, we have continuously squandered opportunities to address our systemic issues around our public healthcare systems. The fact that we are talking about, less than 200 ICU beds occupied by COVID patients, yet you have no more.
Yeah.
That should worry us, not just around COVID, but even going forward. Because if a whole country, a country of over 45 million people, cannot summon around 500 extra ICU beds, then we are headed nowhere. I can tell you, we are headed nowhere. And one of the things that we must remember is that we have elected officials, and I think this could be the problem, that we elect people and then we pay so much to protect them from ourselves.
Right.
We pay so much to lift them off reality, so that they are constantly living in utopia. The ministry officials, at least those at the head of that ministry, are living in utopia. They went around the country, wasted a lot of money, saying they were surveying, looking at preparedness and whatnot. Yet nothing came out of that. Because if they did not assess reality, if they did not assess our capacity, then they wasted our resources.
Caleb Hamisi, it is interesting, or I'll say this. Sometimes I bring Waishimiu as members of parliament, and they say the government must tell us. But what is interesting, actually, the common mwananchi down on the ground knows that the MCA is government, knows that the member of parliament is government, knows that the woman representative is government. I mean, speak to your people today and just tell them what is wrong in government, what is wrong with government. Why is it that we speak of the same problems day in, day out? Money is channeled towards addressing that, but still nothing seems to move. That's the reason why we have this phrase, vitu kwa ground ni different, because we feel like, you as Waishibiwers are totally not in touch with what is happening in the government or on the ground.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I've been out of touch with the program because of the challenges.
Yes, sir.
I'm even on the track. We started from a topic. Now I can see we are on governance.
We didn't dwell much on the BBI. We said we are waiting to see what will happen today, and then we can talk some more on that. But still, I mean, what is happening on matters, doctor strike and the problems that we witness in the country, in relation to just what should we prioritize, and that's the reason why I asked. I don't know whether you were able to get my question.
What needs to be prioritized in terms of health sector in this country? We needed to have a health commission.
Okay.
The matters of doctors, there were institutions that provide medical care. They need to be conversed to formation of a health commission, so that we'll have an complete overhaul of our health sector.
But the doctors presented that, and they feel like it has not been incorporated proper on the BBI.
Yeah, but everybody thinks that a BBI is some sort of a document that carries all the solutions that bedevils this country. No, BBI is a suggestion to amend the constitution, is a suggestion to have policies that will be implemented, is a suggestion to have regulations. It is a whole a collection of views from Kenya. Now, a suggestion to amend the constitution cannot resolve the issues that have bedeviled the governance, because some of them touches on the governance. Failure of some leaders or failure by the government. So this cannot be solved by the BBI document. Now, the health sector, I'm one of the members of parliament from early this year in April, who sought a statement and it's on record, requesting the Minister of Health to provide personal protective equipment when the contagion, when the pandemic was at a low stage. Now we are overwhelmed as a country. Nobody listened to me at that time. As a member of parliament, I did my role. I presented a statement to request the minister in charge of health to provide personal protective equipment, because doctors who are front workers were at the highest risk of contracting this virus. Now the chance is here for everyone. We are now beyond cure. I think it is also very important that governments listen to some of us leaders who always raise issues at the right time, not when it is overwhelming the country. So I think the Ministry of Health failed the country in planning and in actually taking care of what was important and very paramount at that stage.
Okay, you want to? Yeah, it's okay, gentlemen. I will allow you guys to ask the question. Proceed and ask the questions.
No, I don't know to ask a question.
You don't want to have.
I don't know to ask a question. I just want to comment.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed.
Extremely disappointed.
Okay.
Close to. I think I'm close to annoyance because when Honorable Miss is telling us that he issued a statement. And then what he's talking about is similar to what I would do and what we have been doing, asking government to do specific things. And then standing on that statement, saying that he has done all he could as a member of parliament. That is sad. It is very sad. And, when a leader of that profile, one who sits in the legislature, talks to us and tells us government has failed to do this.
Yes.
Yet this is an arm of government that is charged with oversight, even of the Ministry of Health itself, which they have failed, by the way, because, if you have a ministry that has run rogue for several months, yet Parliament is playing ping pong with them. They call them for a hearing, and then it's like old friends have met and they're discussing about the weather. Those kinds of things should not be tolerated anymore in this country. And I want to tell Honorable Amisi, and not just him, I think he represents a large number of members of parliament who still think they are not government, that they have been elected to speak at funerals. They have been elected to speak in church services. I think we need to stop this kind of behavior.
Draw a line. We really must draw a line between perennial condemnation of members of parliament for no good reason.
This is not perennial.
This is a good reason, Mheshimiwa.
This we are talking about right now. We are talking about right now. If I may ask,
just condemn.
We are not condemning you. We are laying the blame where it should be. And the fact is that members of parliament has failed. It is not a perennial issue. Perennially, yes, parliament has failed, but you are in this parliament today.
What is the thought of unfortunately, we have no idea. We have no idea what a parliament stands for. What are the mandates and the role of parliament? You do not wish a parliament to solve the problem. It is as a clear role. The role of a parliament is to oversight the executive. It's not to bring you PPEs.
Let's bring in Honorable Ikonya. Let's bring in Honorable Ikonya and tell us just how much, because, it's a replica of parliament down what it is that you do as a member of county assembly, yes? Just how much stamina and power are you able to push and lobby to ensure that even as you oversight, some of these things get to be done? When Mheshimiwa speaks of a health commission, I can tell you this, I have hosted Honorable Cleopas Mailu, who was then the CS for Matters Health, and the same conversation was there. Let's have a commission for health. We shouldn't have devolved health in the first place. But today we still have the same. Years down the line, just how much capability do you have as members of parliament or as members of county assemblies to ensure that things sail through?
Let me begin by taking political responsibility and apologizing to Kenyans on behalf of government. Because this government has failed in terms of healthcare, in terms of almost everything. Actually, the place of this government should be in hell, if you ask me. Because we really feel people, it's good we accept some of these things, right? As opposed to keep, sharing brains here and there. We have a responsibility that are given by our people, and truly we have not delivered to our people. We have seen Kenyans now falling out in matatus and dying. We have a responsibility as government. Let me give you a case in point of Kiambu County. We are doing the supplementary budget. The people who allocate money is the assembly and the national parliament. So the people who are responsible of giving the health sector enough money to buy PPEs, to buy what it takes to have doctors protect themselves, are the members of parliament and the members of the county assembly. Today and this week, we have a supplementary budget before the Kiambu County Assembly, and we made sure that we've given enough money to the health department in Kiambu. So when a member of parliament says that he has no responsibility in as far as PPEs, buying of PPEs is concerned, all these things are brought to you, and you make decisions as an assembly or as parliament. This is the much you're going to allocate to pharmaceuticals. This is the much you're going to allocate to this and that department. So it's purely upon us to do that.
as a member of the county of Kiambu, what have you done yourself? Do not always.
That is what I'm trying to answer. My brother, that's what
because
I'm trying to
we are here, three of you, blaming one person for failure. What have you done? You are a leader in the county. Say, as a county assembly of Kiambu, we bought 2 PPEs. We need 3 more for the parliament to buy us. Let us have.
This conversation is going in the wrong direction.
Yes.
In terms of the Mheshimiwa asking the question he's asking, he should not be doing that. Because if people have said you have a responsibility, the best way to answer that question is to answer the question as to whether you have a responsibility, Mheshimiwa, not to deflect the question to ask others to say what's their responsibility. That is called passing the buck. And anybody who passes the buck, I keep saying, the first thing in life is to take responsibility for what you're supposed to do. What we are saying, Mheshimiwa, is this: we don't need a commission of health.
The time when I was off, you've had all the time to articulate your issues. You failed. Now you give me my time. I mean, you've all the stage.
All right, respond, Mheshimiwa, so that we can come back to Alex. Yes.
Yeah, but you need to be fair. You people, you've been talking all through. Now I've not gotten a chance.
But I've given you the right to reply. That's actually the reason why I'm silent, Mheshimiwa. Let's listen to you now.
At this particular time, we should not look for a person to blame. We should ask ourselves, I'm a member of county assembly, I'm a member of this organization. What have I done? A pandemic is not caused by government. A pandemic is a natural disaster. We must come all as Kenyans. You don't look for a person to blame. If you want to look for a person to blame for your failures, you will find. But you need to ask yourself, what have I done in my capacity as a leader, in my capacity as a county assembly member? I've said, in my capacity as a member of parliament, I sought a statement as required by our standing on.
Well, I think I'm the one who brought that question up. Actually, it had nothing to do with you. Let's allow Mwathi come. Yes?
Just to clarify something to Honorable Amisi, we are not...
I'm still talking. I don't know. The connection has a problem.
Just listen, so that you can... Just listen. You're getting me?
Yeah, well, it's a bit hard for us to...
I think if he's listening,
keep talking.
I think...
let's try and see whether we can hear him.
Yes, I can hear you. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm saying, my capacity as a leader, I've also suggested that we need to establish a health commission. These are solutions to what bedevils us. But we cannot be here just blaming, morning to evening. This person has failed. No, it will not save our country. Every person has a responsibility. It is a pandemic. It is a global contagion. Nobody expected it. It has brought down even the biggest nation. Forget about Kenya. America is crying. America is the highest.
This is one of the things that has costed Trump. One of the reasons why he was not elected in again is because of his handling of COVID-19. So it is almost inevitable for us not to question some of these things and put the Mheshimiwas to task. Gentlemen, let's calm the fire a bit and take a short breather. It is necessary, even as we update you on what has been happening. That is former Kilifi South Member of Parliament Mustafa Idi is dead. Of course, he died at 50, and they say that he has complications. He's asthmatic, and of course, they develop an attack, and of course, has exhaust on them. But all the same, what we are talking about is crucial and is very important. The rest have spoken. I'd love to hear your take.
It's a very sad thing that when a conversation around a very serious issue in this country that made him emotive at the beginning because it's come home to roost. And when you know a friend is in hospital for the last 5 days, he's on oxygen. When you know that a week ago we buried someone in Limuru because they couldn't get a bed in Nairobi. They were admitted in a small hospital in Naivasha. And Kenyans pay for beds, pay for anything. It's a family that was ready to pay for anything to have that lady admitted. She was buried. When you have that situation and people are talking about some constitutional thing that will supposedly change this whole country into paradise, you want to concentrate on the main thing. And then when errors are mentioned and people start defending themselves, for me that becomes a very sad situation. I just want to say this and address it to the people that be who have been given a point of leadership.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of pandemic. There are decisions that have to be made, and if you're members of parliament and you have suggested ways to do that and that has not happened, you have only one option: to resign today, not to sit back and push blame anywhere else.
Okay.
It's your responsibility to run this country.
All
There
right,
are three
let's-
arms of government.
Yes.
The executive, the legislature, and judiciary. The MP has said it very clearly that the legislature is supposed to be check and balance the executive. So if
Right.
the executive is not performing his role, it's up to the legislature to continuously questioning them. Now, what is the legislature doing today?
Right.
All of them are focused on BBI. All of them are running around to do the launch today and do the launch of the signatures tomorrow,
Yeah.
and forgetting that the people that they are taking that BBI to are struggling. The last data I saw was showing that 2.7 million Kenyans have lost their jobs in the last 10 months. Linda, that is the data that the government collects, but the data that the government collects is almost wrong.
Right.
To an extent of 50-60% of the national. So if you talk to every one of us, they will tell you 4 or 5 people who have lost their jobs. So I'm talking about maybe 6-7 million people. You go to any supermarket today and ask them what's their turnover today as opposed to March this year. They will tell you that their turnovers are between 40 and 60%, which means the buying capacity of Kenyans have dropped by 40 to 50%
Yeah.
between March and today. That is a reflection. Ask any transporter and ask you, how much movement are you doing? They'll tell you drop by 40%,
Yeah.
which means that this economy is on its knees. Forget about the pandemic. The pandemic has caused this economy to be on the knees. So as leaders, members of parliament,
Right.
members of county assemblies, ministers, the so-called CSs who live in utopia, they live in Mars, they don't live on this earth.
Yeah.
What is your big responsibility now? Is to find a way of reviving that. Deal with pandemic in very simple ways. The doctors are asking for PPEs, provide for them. We need more beds, provide for them. The 14 billion shillings, how many ICU beds can it buy? Buy those ICU beds and put them in across this country, because we have a hospital in every county, and therefore we have 47 of them. So do the things that needs to be done so that you can curtail this. If you're going on with your BBI and the economy is struggling, who will pay for those many, for the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister seats? Kenyans
All right.
will be dead.
Okay, do we have Honorable Caleb Amisi? Okay, we are still trying to get a hold of him. And I mean, this I would have wanted us to take a different direction, but I think it will only be fair for us to wait for him so that he can come on board and equally register his argument, because he feels like, well, we've not been fair enough, and tried. Yeah, well, he does for that matter. But then again, just looking at that and what the government has equally done towards cautioning people at this particular time of COVID-19, the latest we have is that we are being told that we're going to get to that point where we're going to be our brother's keeper, in the sense that, the government will or has established an unemployment insurance fund that as Kenyans, if you are employed, you will have to part way with 2% tax, so at least it can be used to caution these people who are employed or maybe have lost their jobs due to pandemics like COVID-19 today. Probably a good move or not. We have seen some of this happening across different parts and everything. You think so? What do you make of that?
Most of the time when you see some kind of policy or decisions coming from government, you wonder why we pay people to make these kinds of decisions. Because if for such a decision to be made, you would expect that you have tax experts that have sat down and looked at our economy and the way we handle our public finances for them to arrive at such a decision. Now, this, in my view, is a case where government is creating another feeding trough. And I think this government has shown us that it has expertise in that area. When they cannot meet they cannot satisfy their needs in a certain area, they will create another feeding trough, either in a project or something else. Now it is in the form of a tax policy. And if we are to supplement, if citizens are to supplement the deficits of government and the failures of government, then we need not have a government. If I am from my salary supposed to cover the inefficiencies of government, because it is the work of government to create an environment that facilitates employment, we should be asking ourselves why people are not employed, not to give so that we supplement those who are not employed. Then we will never solve the issue of unemployment in this country. So I think if we turn things around, you are standing on your head and you expect to move for kilometers. I mean, that is just not sensible. And I think this government is proving to us day in, day out that they have no capacity for sense. It is unfortunate that we are heading in this direction, and I trust that we will be contesting that kind of policy, because it is not sustainable in the first place. Two, it does not make sense that we are going to supplement the inefficiencies of government. Let us address unemployment. Why are so many people unemployed? Then if we cannot tackle that, and we must ask ourselves why we cannot tackle that, yet we have the resources too, then we should find other solutions.
All right. Well, reality is that unemployment is a problem that is across the global fraternity. That's one thing that we need to acknowledge. And we've seen, across the Atlantic countries, or the United Kingdom, Germany and the likes, there are varied unemployment benefits that are there, that are in existence, and people who are employed are cushioned by the government in most cases, which of course sees the government partly compensate the workers, or for temporary loss. Right now, it wasn't so hard for them after COVID-19 came. Of course, it's getting worse by the day, because this extended more than most of the people expected, the global fraternity expected. Don't you think that it is only fair that the government has started this, looking at the long-term approach of how best we can be able to deal with such in the event that a pandemic occurs, or in the event they would not be able to, in totality, address the aspect of unemployment?
No, I think the very idea of the 2% or whatever percent is nonsensical, if you ask me, because we have a government in place that was voted in by the people and came in and told us that they will come and offer jobs. They will come and create as much of a good environment to people to do business. What we're thinking, one thing we cannot run away from, the reason why you hear Mwadi here and my friend here very angry is because we are going back to some 14 billion that is being spent somewhere of a project that we don't understand. And we're asking ourselves, what is our priority today, for example? We should be cautioning a lot of people. Our young people who are out there, who are very innovative, and who lost their jobs and are ready and willing to go back to business. The only thing they do not have probably set up capital is space to do that. Small amounts of money to help them get back to business. And then we're telling people that we now need to come and supplement that with I don't know what. So I think we need to get our priorities right as government. And leading to what Wakili have said, there is no way a government that was voted in with a lot of confidence by people would come and start telling us that.
Right.
So they need to think better. They need to have their priorities right, and we need to cushion our people. And that should be, we need to be dealing with two our priorities should be in two things. One, issues to do around with COVID. Number two, getting our people back to business. And the only way we can get back our people to business is to plow what we have as a country, the resources that we have as a country, the little that we have as a country, and take them to our young people, to businesses out there. Let us cushion them and let's have our people revamp back to business. That is the only way we can have our economy back. Otherwise, either things are stories.
All right. Honorable Caleb Amisi is back with us. And Mheshimiwa, I brought up the question courtesy of the numerous members of parliament I have hosted at some point, and I've put questions on behalf of the common mwananchi, which is the rightful role of the media in trying to get answers for the sake of the common mwananchi, in trying to seek clarity for their sake, because like I rightfully started by saying, most of the people on the ground view members of parliament, MCAs, women representatives as government. All these people who are, were elected 6 different categories. So it is hard for the common mwananchi to sit and even imagine that a member of parliament would tell them that this is not in my domain. This is not what I'm supposed to. And it is true, we agree constitutionally that yes, that could not be within yourself. But we ask, just how much can you do in terms of lobbying, in terms of pushing for some of these crucial things, like what you bring aboard, the aspect of setting up a health commission to be implemented? Hello?
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Now, we first of all to understand the three levels of government. We have the judiciary, we have the executive, and we have now the parliament.
Parliament, yes.
The common mwananchi, most often they do not understand the different levels of government and the responsibilities and the mandate to each one of them.
Yeah.
The parliament role is representation, oversight, and the making laws. The common mwananchi will expect that whenever there is a failure of the executive, that is still parliament mistake. The common mwananchi, even to us who are leaders, members of parliament, if you fail to attend even an arambe, you'll have been told you have failed your mandate as a sitting member of parliament.
Yeah.
So the responsibilities that have been put to our members of parliament, it is obnoxious. It is beyond reasonable doubt. The people do not really understand. When a member of parliament stand up and they question a minister for health, is actually doing his responsibility as a member of parliament. Now, whatever answers the minister for health give, whatever steps the minister for health give, it is his prerogative to get what the oversight or not. But most often, common mwananchi, are we still together?
Yes, we are listening.
Yes, most often the common mwananchi always do not get the different roles of members of the parliament, members of the executive, and even members of the county assembly. You will find them that if they don't even attend an arambe or a wedding, they'll be accused of failing their mandate.
Yeah.
That is because of lack of knowledge, lack of clarity. But now, we need to go back to the question you are raising, that this health, the issue of the coronavirus, it is an unfortunate thing that as a nation, we need to have a discussion on, just like other nations have taken approaches. Most nations like government of US, they have what we call the Federal Reserves. They have been able to cushion even the unemployed, the youth, the people who are laid off because of the corona effects. Because they have a substantial amount of the Federal Reserve. As a country, we also need to think about a contingency fund that can actually take us through a pandemic, something that was not budgeted for. Because you go to the ministry, they'll tell you these are not budgeted. We'll be going against the law. All those things. These are things that needs to be compassed. Whether it is in a change to our laws, whether it is in enactment of new laws, this is now where members of parliament come in, and that's why you see some of the people of us where the ministers have been called before parliament. The KEMSA people have been called before parliament. That is the role of the parliament. That is actually what we are related to, that we oversight. Beyond oversight is now up to the executive to implement. So if you confuse all these things, you'll be blaming year in, year out, but we will not be moving ahead as a nation.
Allow me to ask this, Mheshimiwa, before I come to the gentleman. We are now talking of an employment insurance fund being brought on board by Treasury, of course, courtesy of the entire government, to cushion people who are unemployed, to cushion people who probably have lost their jobs, especially at a time like this that we are going through a pandemic. And we're talking of the rest of the Kenyans parting ways with 2% of what it is that they get in terms of tax, so that this can be, a long-term plan towards cushioning these people. But we've also seen Kenyans parting away with the likes of, NHIF funds, NHIF tax for that matter. And today we have a scenario where the health ministry says that NHIF cannot be able to cater for the pandemic situation that we have as a country. Where will the Kenyans get the confidence to even say that, yes, I am comfortably going to, let go of 2% of what it is that I have for the sake of a brother?
The problem I always have with our country as a leader is that we have so many funds, we have so many programs, implementation, and it has always been our problem. Because even if you talk about the NHIF, the NSSF in countries, the Scandinavian countries, the Norway, the Sweden, it has worked perfectly well.
Yeah.
But we'll find we have an NSSF, which is a pension fund, and we still have pesa kwa wazee. So you ask yourself, why do we have pesa kwa wazee and yet we have an NSSF fund that was supposed to cushion them during their old age. We have so many funds. We have Wezo Fund, Youth Fund, Enterprise Fund, but all these funds, I think either is corruption or either is a lack of clarity, but we find them almost doing the same functions or not at all. So the point of my proposal is to review our various funds. Even NHIF needs to be reviewed. I don't think, in my opinion, NHIF is doing what it ought to do. We have failed Kenyans on NHIF. We have failed Kenyans on NSSF. It has not, the Kenya, a common Mwananchi does not see the need of NSSF. A common Mwananchi does not see the need of NHIF. As a leader, I'm proposing we relook all these funds. Because some of these funds, even in developed nations, are working fast. But it is now upon this corona should have given us a wake-up call to review whether our funds that have been established are just avenues for corruption or are really doing what they ought to do.
Mm-hmm. All right, and now we're coming to the aspect. Yes.
Okay, one now.
Are you?
Yes.
Let's allow Ikonya come in. Come in.
He's the last one who spoke.
Are you
Am
the
I
last
right?
one who spoke?
Yes.
Is it not more than? All right, let's
You're coming
proceed.
to me before
Okay.
we-
All right.
Interesting. When I saw that item of the 2% for whatever you say it is, I remember that a few months ago we had a 1% for housing.
Yes.
That people who are working needed to be taxed so that they can finance the rest of the
housing
people
projects, yes.
to buy houses.
Yeah.
It's the same thing now. I'm taxed specifically.
Yeah.
So that I can maintain my brother. So which means that it's very simple that we need to announce that we move from a capitalist state to a communist state, where the state will take care of its people. In capitalism, people create environment for capital multiplication so that people can do investment and be able to progress.
Yeah.
For me, this reminds me of a very good quote. I don't know if it's Chinua Achebe. He might know. We might know. Who said that he who that the gods want to destroy, they make them mad fast.
Yeah.
Our leaders are mad right now before the destruction.
Okay.
Because the thinking is so nursery level. You have a country where you collect 1.6 trillion. You have a country that you pay 900 billion of the 1.6 trillion repayment for loans. In the same country, you have an expenditure of 550 billion. So which means you collect 1.6 trillion, you pay back loan 900 billion, you spend 500 billion on recurrent expenditure. So which means out of 1.6 collected, 1.5 is gone. You were discussing about giving counties 660 billion. We are discussing giving them 35%. Okay? In the same country, we have a budget of 3 trillion shillings, which means from the day the Minister of Finance reads the budget, you're planning to borrow 1.4 trillion. Your borrowing right now is 6.7 trillion. Where is the end? It means that in the next 5 years, our borrowing will go up to, say, 14 trillion.
Right.
Our repayment will go towards, say, 1.3 trillion. Our collection will drop because you're not creating any new methods of creating that wealth. That's what leadership is all about. That's what this MP Amisi needs to understand. That leadership is about providing a way forward for a country. Now, in this same country now, we want to create a fund to have a communism kind of thing. The same government, and I would like him to mention on this, have admitted that 40% of the budget is wasted.
Okay.
Is wasted resource.
All right.
In UK, the Prime Minister take a tube. In Netherlands, we see the Prime Minister going around his business with a bicycle. Not even a single MP goes with 2 policemen. Even an MP goes with 2 policemen. I don't know that when you get elected as a member of parliament, you become a thug immediately, then you need protection. Against what? Now, let me finish. Let me finish,
Make
please.
it brief,
Let me
so
finish.
at least, yes.
Yes, I'm making it brief. We gave him about 8 minutes I've only taken 2 minutes.
I'm just considering the rest of the gentlemen.
Okay.
We had spoken before.
I'll finish. So in that case, leadership must start looking at all those things. If you're wasting 40% of the budget, it means you're wasting how much? 1 trillion shillings is wasted.
Right.
Isn't that where we need to pull back, use our common sense, and use that money to cushion everybody else?
Yes.
Did you see KPLC complain the other day that they are losing revenue because people are going to solar?
Yes.
That company will be closed in 5 years' time. It's not because of solar.
Yes.
It's because of inefficiency. Today, my bill at home, I pay, the bill, I pay 600 shillings every month on forex exchange loss. In my house. What are you talking about, foreign exchange in my house? So the government need to pull back.
Yeah.
And I'm including the 3 arms of the government, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, pull back and say, we are going to stop this waste of 1 trillion shillings. Can you imagine what 1 trillion shillings would do for this country?
Right.
Oh.
And waste, of course, is one of the things that we cry about every other day. The fact that corruption is here with us and so much money cannot be accounted for. But speaking of which, then, Honorable Ikoja, before we come to you, Philip, I'd love for you to tell us, I mean, and this we agree, that you can only do as much as the Constitution requires you to do. But like, Alex rightfully puts it, is that, it's for you to come up with, ways and policies that would be instrumental in making changes anyway. So how much needs to be done towards giving you the power, towards strengthening your mandate, so we are able to see that some of these proposals that you give are realized, are pushed to a level of implementation? Because yes, members of parliament will tell you they have the best of proposals in terms of bills and pushing and all that, but they can tell you, in most cases, it only ends here. I can only present this and that's just it. Nothing is being done towards this, seeing this sail through.
Yeah, I could agree. I've seen situations where in the assembly we've made pieces of registration, very good pieces of registration, but you see the people to implement them is executive, of course. So once it goes out there and you expect the executive to implement, then it becomes a little bit hard now to follow up and see what the executive arm is doing. But so I think we need to get more powers in terms of following up the executive and seeing that which we passed as a legislative body, because we realize what you pass has to go to the public. For example, we take the aspect of public participation. So we've gone to the people, we've asked them whether this is appropriate for them. We've had the conversations around villages and whatever and we have made a very good legislative proposal.
Yeah.
So once we pass and the people to enact that registration is executive and the other money doing that, then I think we need a little bit more power to crack on them. We need more power to, for example, ask the executive arm, for example, if it's a policy on roads that we've developed as a county, we now need to have motive to bite if that is not done, or rather it's not implemented, because we were not doing it, because once you're doing something, the assembly or the parliament will look at so many things. They will look at the issues of budget, whether we have a budget to carry out this project, whether this piece of registration can be realized. We have a budget for it. So once you are certain that all these things are happening, and then you realize it's suddenly political, there is no political goodwill to do that, or probably the executive is not willing to do that. So I think we need to be given more power to weigh in on the executive and make sure that we're not just forming policies for the sake of forming policies. We're not just doing registration for the sake of doing registration, but we're doing registration to enhance, development, to enhance growth, to make sure that things move. That way, I think parliaments and assemblies will feel encouraged to even do much more. As opposed to just doing bills and motions and what have you, having them piled somewhere and they're not followed up. So I think we need to get more teeth to bite, so that we follow up on the executive. So when we give money for PPs, for example, we've said that we have a supplementary budget in Kiambu counties right now, and we've given quite a lot for PPEs to be bought and that kind of thing. So we need to, even in our oversight role, to go and check if they were bought, and if they were not bought, what is it that the assembly can do if, for example, what they recommended was not done. So I think we need to get more teeth to weigh in on the executive to make sure that they carry out what we registered upon.
One thing strikes Philip Mwangale is that there's not much of civic education that has been done towards people understanding the roles of the people that represent them. And reality is that, I had a conversation with someone someday, we were talking about BBI, and, she even told me, what makes you think that Wanjiku knows even what is in the 2010 Constitution to even start talking about amending it, So what needs to be done also to get the citizenry, to get the voter to understand what it is that the people, they elected are supposed to do for them? Because that's crucial in also, that aspect of saying that this is what we're going to make as a decision moving forward.
One of the hallmarks of leadership is that a leader is a dealer in hope and reality. And if a leader is to define reality, then they are doing their job as a leader.
Yeah.
But what we've had in this country over the years, it's not just during this period, over the years, we've had elected representatives capitalizing on the ignorance of the masses,
yes,
so that it serves them when the masses do not know what their duty is. And Caleb has mentioned this, and it is unfortunate that members of parliament have a skewed understanding of the working of government and their role specifically. Because it is not the people who demand that members of parliament go to funerals and go to Harambes and give these amounts of money and even go as far as Caleb is mentioning, go attending weddings. Yeah. It is not the people who demand. The reason why this is a good platform for politicians, it's because they cannot gain the kind of capital they gain in parliament, doing their rightful job. They have to gain that capital in funerals. They have to address these issues in funerals. And you've had Caleb making proposals. He's proposing some things that need to be done. While those proposals might be good, these are not the forums to make those proposals. Yeah. Members of parliament should be telling us, this is what we are doing, or this is what we have done. This is what is in the pipeline. This mode of government is not new to us. This kind of government is working elsewhere. We have parliaments that are working effectively. You have executives that are working in committee with parliament and the judiciary.
Yeah.
So the failure we are having, one, is principally the people we elect into office. So that if you are electing proper people into office, then they will make sure that the masses are educated, one, on the role of the citizen and on the role of the people who have been elected.
Yeah.
We are talking about, and you've mentioned the Constitution of Kenya 2010. It serves the Kenyan politician right now for, and we are calling them ordinary citizen, common mwananchi. I think we need to get rid of these terminologies.
Okay.
Wanjiku, and it's just the Kenyan citizen. I think when we now have, referring to some people as common mwananchi and then others are elevated mwananchi, then, that is where we get these problems. So if we do not have an understanding of what our leaders should do, and I agree that some citizens may not have an understanding. And one, it is because politicians have perennially disenfranchised some citizens. They have perennially misappropriated resources. The reason why you would have Harambes taking place and there is a thirst for Harambes to build a school, for example, it is because taxpayers' money has not been used to build that kind of infrastructure.
Right.
So we cannot address the problem backwards. We need to address the right problem. The issue is not really attending the Harambes and leaders, having these demands. The issue is, have these leaders done what they're supposed to do? If, for example, we had roads, proper roads, we had proper schools, we had proper hospitals, who will call you for Harambe?
Okay.
No one, because there will be no need for that kind of engagement. So I think we really need to have an understanding of the citizens understanding their role principally, and then the elected representatives understanding their role. And I think one of the things, as I finish, that I find unfortunate is that parliamentarians still have this kind of high school debate mentality, that you can issue a statement in parliament and then that is it. They forget that parliament has the power to sanction these individuals that they call for hearings. Because when a committee of parliament is sitting, it is sitting with the power of a high court. Yeah. So if somebody appears before you and lies under oath, and then you let them go and you will be celebrating with them somewhere along the way, you'll meet in a Harambe, you'll meet in a funeral, and it just goes like that, and then we give parliament a getaway card and say parliament did their work because they held a certain hearing, then we are failing on our duty as citizens and as elected representatives. Time is completely
not on our side, but I'll take two, of the commentaries from the people who are watching from home. Lois Nyambura says, Paul from Kitale, Chipkoyo, tuned in as usual with Hakim Chichi. It is us to suffer, so we should stop or avoid borrowing completely. I think it's also on gaining or getting so much money as a country in terms of debt. Advice Mudalo says, Laying blame squarely on Parliament is unfair. In as much as Parliament has failed Kenyans in pushing the executive to the right agenda, it's unfair for the panelists to squarely behave as though all the ills in the COVID handling lie with the legislature. The problem in the handling of COVID lies squarely with the Ministry of Health under CS Kagwe. So therefore, it lies with the executive. Allow us to close it at that, gentlemen. Allow us to close it at that. Right. What do you want to tell Advice?
No, I want to tell, because Advice is my high school contemporary. I want to tell him we're not laying the blame squarely with Parliament. It's just because Caleb is here and he is a representation of Parliament.
And let's allow Caleb to say something.
We have apportioned blame, I think, across the board.
30 seconds.
Yes.
30 seconds, Caleb.
Yes.
I mentioned
I'll tell you how Kagwe came in. After the starting of Mwangi Kionjori, we had to get an individual from that side of Mount Kenya. So basically, we came up with Mutai Kagwe, and we had to get a job for him. After we hosted Mwangi Kionjori, so that region felt like
we needed to have a balance. Yes. Bring back a representative. Okay, all right. Honorable Caleb Amisi.
Yes, I hope you can get me.
Yes, we can. Your parting shots.
Yeah, I'm actually extremely pleased by the last part of this discussion. It is sober and a providing solution. That is what I wanted to take part, but not the previous how you started. You started with the MK and it was not the right trajectory.
Okay.
I'm very pleased people are now sober, they're now talking. That is the kind of discussion I will wish to have. Okay. Now, just of the time, the two gentlemen who spoke last have expressly put it well, the role of the Parliament and the executive, and sometimes a Parliament works as a unit. So when you say a Parliament has failed, remember there are also leaders who are doing well in Parliament. You need to assess an individual, a member of Parliament, as well as a parliament as a unit, because I can do my work as an individual member of Parliament. Like what I suggested, the statement I gave earlier, that was my individual initiative as a leader to help Kenyans cushion on the effects of Corona and all that. As a leader, as a member of Parliament, I can ask questions, I can participate in committee, but the decision overall, the decision of the majority. So we need to also assess leadership in terms of the unit and what an individual can do as an individual and also collectively as a Parliament. Because I cannot make a decision on behalf of Parliament. Our Parliament is made up of 290 members, and me, Caleb, cannot make a decision alone. I make a decision by majority. But having said that, overall, Parliament in this country has done a lot. We have done our oversight. The only problem that whatever reports we write, if they are not implemented by the executive, then there is nothing, or the law does not provide on the measures that Parliament can take. That's what we have done. Yeah,
Honorable Caleb Amisi, Member of Parliament Saboti, Alex Mwathi, who's a political analyst and equally an engineer, Anthony Konya, MCA Kiambu Ward, and lastly, Philip Mwangali, governance expert. Thank you so much for the great insights, gentlemen. I know you'd have loved to give your parting shots, but let's wind it at that. Sawa sawa. After this break, tomorrow.